Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Justin.
We are the champions. I didn't want to get demonetized.
Oh, nice. You just
I just totally changed it.
We
mid-sing.
are the champions.
We are the champions.
We
My
are.
friend.
My friend and colleagues and family.
Yeah.
And yes, we are indeed.
Yeah. It was weird because obviously last week's episode came out after we had already won
Yes.
the world
People
championship.
knew.
People knew. But for us, this is the first time we're seeing each other.
We are the champions of the Four Nations.
And we were friends because we could cheer for McMuffin together.
The greatest hockey player to ever lace up the skates.
Probably, but now he's a bum again because the Oilers are losing and we're
Probably.
laughing all the way.
He's not the reason they're losing.
He is not the reason they're losing. That is true.
That German guy, he's not the reason either.
No, neither
No
of them.
one knows what's going on there. Yeah, it's very strange.
But yes, champions. It was great. That tournament, I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
I think it was one of the best things I've ever watched start to finish as far as international tournament in any sport. Like Olympics included, I think was second only to the 2010 Golden Goal with Sidney Crosby and Jerome McGinley. That was literally, I will say though, I thought it was funny how we were all really praising Gary Bettman, and I say we as they're like the royal we, not us, but I'm just saying that the ether, the pop culture was praising the NHL and praising Gary Bettman for this amazing job of giving us this international tournament instead of the All-Star game. The whole reason we were starving for an international tournament is because he took it away from us.
Yeah. So screw you, Gary Bettman, for finally doing it right.
Yes. It's just, I was like, wait a minute, this guy is the reason we need this so bad.
Welcome to the Aud Pod, where we're talking Kitchener Rangers hockey with the oddballs themselves, Andrew and Justin. Take it away, fellas.
Yeah. There's something different about international hockey, man. International hockey is a different beast.
Here's my 2 cents on the Four Nations versus Olympic.
Yeah.
I do like NHL rules better than Olympic rules, I think.
Okay.
Like international rules.
Do you mean like European ice?
But
or do you mean just
like specifically the rule book?
Okay.
I enjoy the NHL rule book that we had during Four Nations.
Yes, okay.
But I do like European ice or the international ice.
I would be interested to see. I think that Canada is built for international ice.
I agree because we have
the fastest
team ever.
Also, I had no idea Travis Sanheim was that good at hockey. But that was the cool thing about the tournament is that there were guys that you barely get to see.
You never watch.
Because I just don't see Philly play.
No.
And you look at it and you're like, wow, he's doing well this year. But to see that guy skate, first of all, he's huge, and he skates like a forward. I was like, this is nuts. This guy is unbelievable.
And he's our fourth best defenseman.
Yeah, he's bottom pairing. He was playing the least minutes.
I know.
I was like, okay, this guy is unbelievable. And so Canada, and I think we can all eat crow on Jordan Binnington. People were like, there was no one who was outwardly being like, he's the guy.
Yes.
There was no one saying
specifically not
that.
us on the podcast 2 weeks ago.
Because you looked it up and you're like, oh, he's the third goalie.
Well,
I thought for sure Aiden Hill was the guy.
I would have put Binnington in over Aiden Hill, and I'm on record saying that.
You did say that.
But I also didn't think it was a good option.
Yeah, I know. But Jordan Binnington was the best goalie on the planet in that deciding game, in that final.
He totally was.
He won the game.
In overtime, he won.
The overtime, it was yes, I totally understand McDavid scored the goal, you're going to give him the MVP, whatever. The MVP was Jordan Binnington.
Because the U.S. had way more chances in overtime.
They had literally a gaping net.
Yeah.
And Austin Matthews, arguably the greatest pure goal scorer in the league right now, is at the side of the net.
In his prime shooting position.
And not only that, there was any pressure on him. It was a perfect pass. It was right there. And Binnington saved the day.
He leafed it.
Yeah, he did leave it. He leafed it so hard because then they went down the other ice and he came off his man. And I was just like, this is the most Leafy thing to ever happen. The only positive for the Leafs was that Marner fed McDavid the goal. And
had that beautiful OT winner in Game 1.
He did. Marner played
and then
really
Marner
well.
did that again against Boston.
Former OHLer. I actually was listening to the OHL podcast.
As we always do.
And they were talking about how many OHLers stood out in the tourney.
Last week we did the trivia about who were the OHLers in the tournament.
Yes.
And there was one missing because I put that list together before Thomas Harley played.
That's true.
Thomas Harley, also a former OHLer. I got...
Also a former American. Born in Syracuse, New York.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. But his dad's from Edmonton, so he could play.
Oh, good.
Thank goodness.
I got lit up by Reddit because I didn't get that one on the list.
Oh, really?
So thanks, Reddit.
So they're listening.
Somebody's listening.
Somebody's listening on Reddit.
All right.
But we are not a Team Canada Four Nations podcast.
That's true. We are a Kitchener Rangers podcast.
Yes.
And that's the most important thing because we had 3 games this weekend.
Oh, we did. And how did they go, Justin?
I don't want to give away any spoilers.
Yeah.
I really want to keep you all in suspense on these games that happen publicly. But the first game we played was against the Barrie Colts, who are in a bit of a tough way these days, especially after we beat them.
That's true.
4-1.
Yes, they haven't been playing as well as they
originally
were. Like, let's put it that way. They are a good team, though. They're at the top of the standings over there. They're in that top 3, aren't they?
They are, but they've been they were first, and they've slipped down to 3rd, I think.
Yeah,
though.
but there's been so much player movement in the East.
It's true.
It makes sense to me that there's going to be some changes in the standings this home stretch.
This game, to me, against the Barrie Colts, I was really impressed with the Rangers, how solid defensively they were.
Yes.
They played very responsibly, and they obviously listening to the podcast because they were like so clean. There was no penalties. Like they didn't take any penalties, of course, until the 3rd period when they got a double minor. But it was like generally, and even that was like, fine, whatever. Like they had already had the game in hand a bit at that point, but it was like they were played pretty cleanly the whole game.
And not only that, the shot output in all 3 of these games.
Oh, insane. I'm
not saying they're listening to the podcast because maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know.
No, but
personally, if I played on the Rangers, I probably wouldn't listen to anything. So that's just me.
Especially not us.
Yeah, especially not these morons in a room. No, but I thought it was funny that they played cleanly. The shot output was much higher.
Totally.
And I got to gas up our boy, the young stud, Cameron Arquette, who had 2 goals in this game because we totally gassed him up in the last episode. And it was like...
Yeah, it was like immediately that night, boom.
Yeah,
2 goals.
I'm so stoked for him because, like we were saying, when he was coming out of Bantam, he was a scorer, and he hasn't been asked to do that. But you start seeing, you know what? Maybe next year he is gonna be maybe that guy.
We're gonna have some holes higher up the lineup
for sure.
And I'm seeing the things I want to see to move him up.
Absolutely.
If I'm the juice. Which I'm not.
No, you do not. You've got pretty good hair.
I do.
You don't have.
I don't have the. No,
nobody has the juices hair.
So this game started pretty insane. Horevic, the Colts goalie, insane the first period. Like I got worried in the first period. I didn't know if we were ever going to score.
It felt like we were getting goalied.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it felt like we were getting goalied throughout, but there's just too much scoring depth on the Rangers.
I think so.
I think a lesser goaltender than Ben Horevic, it would have been an absolute blowout. It was still 4-1. But it wasn't necessarily. It was 3-0 until the 3rd period. Barrie got one early. We didn't get another one until late in the 3rd.
And we didn't score until the 2nd period.
Yes.
Like, the first period was pretty tight. Not tight because we outshot them like crazy, didn't we?
It was 12-4. They outshot them in the first period.
Yeah,
in
and
the
then
second period,
16-2 in the second.
Yes.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Arquette got 2 goals. He got the first goal, which was great. Then Cameron Reed got his lemonade goal. I'm trying to trademark this.
Okay.
Because he had the exact same goal last week.
Yeah.
Where he was like literally standing in front of the net by himself. And he people can see him because he's the only guy standing in the net. Mm-hmm. He's got no defender on him.
Yeah.
Because he's the defender in deep, and I need to sit back.
Yeah.
Is that what I need to do?
No. Why?
I don't know. You were looking at my camera and you were doing like.
No,
lean
there's
back?
no subconscious.
I thought you were like signaling to me to lean back.
No, it's the way that we have our camera set up. Sometimes it's easier to just look at you.
So yeah, Cameron Reed standing in front of the net, the lemonade goal. Standing on the step, drinking his lemonade, getting the goal.
Love it.
Okay. Anyways,
I think it could become a thing.
I think
especially if you don't just trail off and start talking about the camera setup.
Thinking that you're trying
that the
to
listener
send me...
can. Yeah, I'm not sending you messages. I'll just say it.
And then, like the empty netter, Misljevic hit the nos to get that empty net goal for the fourth one.
Yeah, we'll talk about him hitting the nos later.
He hit it a few times this weekend.
He does.
Got it in the skates there.
Yeah, he really does.
So then after the Barrie Colts game on Friday, we had a day off, and let me tell you, the London Knights announcers in this next game let us know about 15 times that the Rangers had the day off the day before because they were on a 3-on-3.
Yes. London was playing 3-and-3. Yeah, they're playing 3 games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
nobody's ever done that.
No one has ever succeeded at that.
Ever.
Yeah,
especially not this season. Even the team that they're playing has never. Of course we did it.
Yeah, of course
so
we did it.
many times,
well, it's also
London.
Just
get over it.
Yeah, it's also just like how many times is it a talking point?
Yeah, I know.
I get it. Like I'm biased, obviously. Like we're heavily biased against everything London.
We're allowed to be because we're a Rangers podcast.
Obviously. However, like I do listen to the other teams, like any opposing team's broadcast. I do listen to it with an open mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested in learning about these teams' players and whatnot. And I'll specifically put out that the Brantford, that's probably one of my favorite telecasts.
Yeah.
The Brantford Bulldogs telecast. I think the commentators are great. It was all good.
Yeah.
The London, now there are aspects. I did text you and I said 2 of these personalities seem great.
Yes.
But
Mr. Mohawk construction glasses.
I wasn't going to say it. But yeah, the guy who just came from the workshop. I don't know if he's doing woodworking like between periods or something. During the commercial breaks.
Fixing up the booth.
Whittling or something.
Doing some electrical.
He's fixing it up. Yeah. I don't. It's a style choice. The safety glasses and the mohawk
and the whininess.
And the whininess is honestly, I could look past the superficial stuff.
Yeah.
But and moaning about the situation. Okay, you're the best team in the league. You have the best record.
Going into this game, you have 8 regulation losses.
Yeah, you're stacked. Like you got even more stacked throughout the season. Like I'm surprised that he wasn't saying it's too bad that one of our players got a DUI.
Yeah.
Like he didn't bring that up, and that would have been a valid excuse that they're not as good defensively anymore. Yeah. But he didn't bring that up because it's so slanted towards London, the telecast, which I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't find that the Rangers are like that.
No, I don't either. None of the personalities, none of the players, anything. There's never excuses.
Which is a good segue into being slanted for London. How about that officiating?
Yes. The officiating was tricky. I tried to hold it together until the third period.
Until Misljevic hit the nos and got tripped in the neutral zone. Here's the thing. It wasn't even the attacking zone where like you could say maybe you're going to look past a stick in the legs because this is an important game for both teams.
Yeah.
It was in the neutral zone. It was a lazy play. He got tripped up. Didn't get called, went back the other way, and then there was immediately a penalty on the Rangers. And I was going, that's when I broke with the officiating. I was like, you have to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And at that point it was 4-3.
Yeah.
And it was the Rangers looked like the better team all game.
Yep.
The third period, they played back-to-back 2-minute. They had penalty kills.
Yes.
The Knights were throwing everything on net. Parsons was standing tall, which he had an absolute highlight reel save in this one at one point where the Knights player was coming down. He had a couple of them.
The OHL save of the week,
But the OHL save of the week where the Knights player's coming down and he actually turns and does this crazy stick save.
Yeah.
Where it bounces out from underneath them, and I think it's Diracolo. I'm not sure. It's a Rangers defenseman who kind of tucks it back in for him, and Parsons jumps on it. Yeah. It was phenomenal from start to finish.
How he got over his whole body, he got it over there. I don't
know. He flipped around. Listen, it was save of the week.
Yeah, for sure.
It was save of the week.
The other non-penalty that didn't get called was the one that happened as London inevitably scored the fourth tying goal on the play, but Landon Sims came over and clear-cut interference against Chromiak.
Yeah, no, the puck was gone.
The puck wasn't anywhere near.
It's either you call it interference, you call it charging, whatever, because he came from a mile away to make that hit.
And then Mr. Whiny Pants was praising him.
Oh, yeah.
That hit was perfect. It was it wasn't because it was interference.
It was late.
Yeah.
And then, they go down and they score.
Yeah.
Because, it's...
Chromiak's out of position.
Of course. Yeah. But the way they started in this game was great. They went up 3-0.
They did.
I felt, it ended up 3-2 late in the
3-1
early
in the first.
Yeah, 3-1 in the first, but then it was 3-2 early in the second. But I didn't feel like it was one of those games where you had that early lead and you were going to blow it.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like that. Those 2 goals, those were earned. They scored those.
Yeah.
But I felt like the Rangers were in control. I didn't feel like they tightened up. I didn't feel like they got nervous. I didn't feel like they changed how they were playing from when they were up 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, as when they were up 3-2. They kept playing their game.
London's a good team. So it wasn't that there was a lot of pressure by London at the start of the second period.
For sure.
But it wasn't that London was outplaying the Rangers. It's just that you have 2 extremely good teams playing against each other. You're eventually going to get your chances.
Yeah.
And London took the opportunity when they had it.
Exactly. And that's the game when you have 2 elite teams playing each other is you're going to trade chances.
Yeah.
No one thought that Kitchener was going to score 3 goals every period and come out with a 9-0 win.
Yeah.
That's not how it felt like even in the first period.
No.
But Kitchener was converting their chances. And then when Kitchener got that 4th goal, I felt like now that's big because I felt like a couple months ago they would have given up that 3rd goal to London, and it would have been 3-3, and then the wheels would have fell off a bit.
We saw that against Peterborough.
Exactly.
Where they gave up the tying goal on the 3rd.
Yes, they did.
The 3rd goal.
Yeah.
And then they never could. Then they were chasing. Even though it was tied, they were chasing.
Yeah, and I feel like they were in their heads in that game, and the officiating was terrible, and all that sort of thing, and that headshot that wasn't called. They got off their game. It was a much weaker opponent that was just being a pest, and you got to lose some of those to learn your lesson.
Yeah.
With London, you knew who you were playing. You knew you couldn't let them tie this game up.
Correct. Yeah, that was super important.
And then when they did tie it up late in the 3rd, I still felt like this was Kitchener's game to win.
I did too.
I felt, you know what? I'm good to go to overtime with these guys because I think that Kitchener's been playing a better game the whole game. Yeah. Even though you look at the shot output that London was out shooting him in the 2nd and the 3rd, I felt like the chances, I didn't feel like the ice was tilted.
No.
I felt like London had power plays. London had a few longer zone possession, like they held it in the zone longer. But I didn't think that Parsons was... Listen, Parsons is always standing on his head.
Yeah.
I didn't think Parsons was standing on his head like, man, he's really stealing this game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he was just in position. That's what... Jackson Parsons is just in position. That's why, we saw in that last game, he's an athletic goalie.
Yep.
However, he is a very strong positional goalie. Yes. And that's what's making this year so magical, because when he needs to be acrobatic, he can do it and make a reaction save. He can do it. But whoever has taken his game to the next level, him as well, but whoever is working with him to be more positional, it's unbelievable what it's doing for his game.
This is why he's Action Jackson Parsons and Reaction Jackson Parsons.
And he's the best goalie in the league.
He is.
Hands down. Even the London telecast, they couldn't say anything about that.
Medvedev might be second best.
Yeah,
but,
they're talking about.
He showed it tonight.
They're talking about Elliot and Medvedev being like 2nd and 4th or something like that, and they're like, but Jackson Parsons is first.
Yeah, it is first.
I'm like, say it again louder. Say it again.
And you know what also made the ice not feel tilted is that our 4th goal came off a great takeaway.
Yes.
And it felt the Rangers were able to do that in a few key moments, is just strip London of the puck, either to diffuse an opportunity or to gain an opportunity for themselves. And that's what inevitably happened in overtime.
And Tanner Lamb had a beautiful setup on that, right? So the guys who are being relied upon to score are scoring. The guys who are not being relied upon to score are scoring. It's a perfect storm. We can get the power play going because, again, I forgot to mention in that Barrie game, they didn't need to be going, but they were 0 for 2. So they didn't need to be going. They got a power play goal against London. I thought that was huge. This is a step forward. The bottom line is the penalty kill is rolling.
Yes.
The penalty kill is
very good.
Is a powerhouse penalty kill.
They were also saying on the broadcast that I think we went 16 straight power plays against London.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course it went to overtime, and Misljevic didn't get tripped and turned on the Jets and went in. And I thought it was so funny because I felt that play developing. When you're really tuned into it and you're not on your phone, you're just literally locked into a game like this because it's London and Kitchener, and you're watching the flow of the game and you're really feeling confident. And then you see that kind of play develop where Misljevic gets that pass and enters the zone, and you're like, oh, he's got him.
Yeah.
And then I was almost not surprised he scored. It was a weird, you're like, oh yeah, if he gets that chance, the missile is putting one home.
The aura on the missile.
Yeah.
Going into the zone.
What a season.
Coming from the left wing there. It was crazy. All right. And then after the thrills of London, Tuesday night, we went, Highway 7. Guelph came up Highway, up? Yeah, up. Over Highway 7 to Kitchener. And this is a different type of game where we won 6-1.
But we gave up the first goal.
We did. And it also didn't feel like, I was like, again, it felt like we might get goalied. That was the first period felt pretty tense.
Then it very much did
and
not.
Then,
Guelph is packed it in a little bit.
Yeah.
I think they traded Gillespie. I'm
going to argue at your point on this a little
bit. That this is the thing, is I think that Guelph is going to get in there and make it in that. It seems like it. If you look at the
that's my argument. Yeah, it feels like the players really want to.
Yes.
I don't know if the team wants them to make the playoffs
that's
as much
more
as
what
the
I'm
players
saying.
want to.
Of course, I think the players always want to.
They always want to.
Yes.
And I felt the desperation in that first period.
This isn't Niagara. That's a different kind of packing it in.
Yeah.
Niagara packed it in. The team has packed it in.
Yeah.
They've lost like 10 in a row or something.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Unfortunately.
But the Storm have packed it in, and so much as like they
traded away everyone.
They traded everyone away.
Yeah.
They're rolling with a lot of young guys, and they're playing well. Unfortunately, they ran into an elite team in the Kitchener Rangers, and it's just, this is what happens: is you might be able to survive the first period where you're outshot 16-8 and have a 1-0 lead.
Yeah.
But then the next two periods, it was the same. It was more of the same, and unfortunately for that young goaltender, it was 6-1 at the end of this.
It was 6-1 at the end of it. I was surprised that they didn't play Schabel in net for this game going in, but Parsons was needed in that first period for sure. I think Schabel would have also held up well because Schabel also holds up well, but for whatever reason, the coaching staff put Parsons in for whatever reasons. They saw something coming in, and I think it was the right call. In the end.
I think so. I think at this point we've only got so many Jackson Parsons starts left.
Yes.
So I think it's maybe if it's like you look at him, how you feeling, you feel like going. I feel like going. I feel good. You're going to let him go.
There were no back-to-back this weekend. There's also this coming up weekend. There's only 2 games.
Yeah, so if you get one, and if it goes Schabel and Parsons, then he's only playing once in a week. The big thing about this game, though, was Luke Ellinas is back.
Back, baby.
He's back.
and he reminded us.
He is back. Yeah.
It was good. That was a beautiful goal that he got in the second period. It was great.
What a player.
Yeah.
To come back in and immediately have the game winner.
Yeah.
In your first game back, I'm like, it's Luke Ellinas.
It was such an important goal, too, at that moment. Tight. It was like, are we going to get another goal? It did feel a little bit like that.
It felt like one of those games where you could get a little lazy.
Yeah.
Because you could, they're not on our level kind of thing, and you could squeak one out.
Yeah.
And then I felt the tide changed, and then the floodgates opened in the third.
Yes.
So it was 4 goals in the third.
Yeah.
And they were all fairly evenly spaced apart, which tells you how dominant that was.
Yeah.
And we saw what we saw. He had 2 goals in the game.
He did.
But one of them,
the Detroit, Michigan prospect?
The Chicago.
Oh.
Chicago.
I think he has to go to Detroit now, isn't it?
Chicago is on Lake Michigan.
Oh, true.
So
yeah.
So he did the Michigan.
He did.
And he didn't get let up. I thought that in a game where that's the I think it was the fourth goal. The fourth goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that maybe things would get a little
dicey,
testy
heated
after that. But I felt, you know what, like he saw it. He's not really that type of player.
No.
He's not doing weird stuff like that. Like, listen, he's got lots of skill, but it's usually like he just beats you with his skates.
Yeah.
And then he fires a beautiful
or he
shot.
dekes you out or
he
something.
dekes you out or whatever.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like this was just like he just saw an opportunity and he did it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you do the Michigan at any time. Which, if you don't know, the Michigan is the lacrosse goal from behind the net, where you pick the puck up on your stick blade and you deposit it over the goalie's shoulder.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do.
No.
More and more guys can do it, but it's very hard to get into a position where you could realistically think, I can do this right now.
It's having zero hockey skill in real life whatsoever. I imagine that playing hockey, there's already a ton of variables you're playing against. And then all of a sudden, to do the Michigan or to do the Zorro moves or whatever, where you pick the puck up on your stick, and you get the centripetal force going and whatever, like you're adding so many new layers. And then you also still have to be aware of the players around you, because if you do it and you miss, it's way worse than not doing it.
It is one of those things where I've seen a few times TSN or someone has posted like they attempted the Michigan. I don't want to see that.
No,
I don't
nobody does.
ever want to see an attempted Michigan. I want to see it either scored or we don't talk about that it happened. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a little embarrassing when it doesn't work.
Hayden Ellis also got into it. He scored his third of the year. Absolutely, just like he went around the defender. The defender just got caught flat-footed because he turned on the nos.
Yeah,
and he just went in and he just undressed the goalie. Close quarters gold perk is what I thought.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
He scored one, but he could have had four.
He could have. He was
had
all
so
over
many
the place.
good opportunities.
He's one of those guys who hasn't scored a ton being up here, but he's a spark plug. He's he's pushing play when he's out there. I think he's an important part. I've enjoyed the hockey that I've seen him play. Yeah. It's been good. And then the captain, the Andalorian, got into it. He got into it.
Also, like a silky smooth goal.
Oh,
what? He usually gets bombs.
Nice little release on that shot. Yeah,
wrister. It was
he's
great.
He's been upgrading that release. Yeah, because
he's prepping for next year.
Yeah, I think so. That was a power play marker. It was nice to see they had 2 power play goals in this game.
Yes.
So it's nice to see the power play working.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that can carry on, because it feels like that's going to be the difference between
that's what you need
getting from the second round to the third round.
Hey, at the holiday break, didn't I say
yes,
the thing that was going to make us successful?
It has
Luke Ellinas and the power play.
It has to get going. Yeah, and Luke Ellinas, we've been talking about how we still feel like there's another gear.
Yeah.
Then he got injured. So we still think that there's another gear there.
I think we started to see it in this game.
I think it's there. I mean, we saw that where he scored at the side of the net. I don't know if you haven't watched our pod. There's a nice stinger now. Maybe we'll post the stinger.
We should maybe do that just as a trailer.
Just post the stinger, which is an industry term for an intro video. Yeah.
Andrew worked in film for a long time.
I did, but not broadcast though. But that is what it is.
You could have just taken all of it and nobody would know.
That's true. I just stole it all.
So that was our 6th straight win against Guelph.
Yep.
And we wrapped up weekend 3 for 3.
3 for 3.
So Andrew, who's your first star of the week?
Okay, the guy was all over the score sheet. He scored the Michigan. I can't pretend it's not Jack Pridham. The guy came from the BCHL. We didn't know who he was. We just knew he was a 3rd-round draft pick for Chicago. I cannot believe the Chicago Blackhawks got Nick Lardis, who's going to score 70 this year in the 3rd round, and they got Jack Pridham. And people are sleeping on Pridham because he only came over for part of the season, and they don't realize that he's absolutely torn it up. He's like most points per game on the Rangers since he got here by a fair margin.
It's hard to imagine that we started the season without him. I can't even remember not having Jack Pridham.
No, because it was like, I just remember seeing, we got this guy from the BCHL because the NCAA agreement changed. And he is.
Looked back.
Chicago seems like they're absolutely loaded, which is good because they're so bad.
Yeah, they're so bad.
Yeah.
Seth Jones was crying in an interview last night.
So.
He won't be there to play with these guys.
You will not be there. No. Who's your first star?
My first star, if you score a mission, you get first star.
Yeah.
So it was Jack Brittam. Who's your second star?
The missile. I went with 3 different players this week rather than concepts or anything fancy.
Okay.
I just thought that Adrian Miseljevic, he was going to be my first star until Jack Brittam scored to Michigan. So you could literally change those two really realistically, but I've never cheered for a team where one of the players on the team that I've cheered for scored a Michigan. So Brittam's first star. Miseljevic is absolutely he's been from day one. He's been an offensive leader. Yeah. He's been head and shoulders above where he was being projected to play.
Yeah.
And he just continues to score. Who's your second star?
My second star is Ellinas.
Nice.
Because he came back, injury, looked great.
Yeah.
Got that beautiful goal. Needed that goal. It was ended up being a game winner, but at that moment in time, we just needed a goal to get ahead of Guelph, and he just looked great. So I'm happy I'm Ellinas because I wanted him back. Also, he was going to be my first star, but if you score Michigan, you get the first star.
Yeah, true. Yeah. That is a rule.
That's the rule.
That's
an
rule.
Odd Pod rule.
That's an Odd Pod rule. We just made it. We make the rules.
We do?
Yeah.
And so who was your third star?
Cameron Reed, man.
Yeah.
Cameron Reed,
he's
just so good. I saw that someone projected him now to go 11th in the draft this year. So looking forward to that. I will literally be sitting there watching all of these picks with bated breath because I'm rooting for this guy to go top 10.
Yeah.
It might not happen. It doesn't matter if it happens or not because next year Cameron Reed is going to dominate. I can't imagine because he's 17.
Yeah.
And we're watching him compete at the levels of guys who've already been drafted. And not only that, he's going out and he's not just this silky smooth. Remember we were comparing him a little bit to Hunter Brustevich.
Yeah.
And we're just saying they're just very different guys, right?
Sure.
Brustevich was so good offensively. And don't get me wrong, he was reliable defensively.
Yeah.
But Cameron Reed is a different player. Same echelon, elite talent. Yes. But different player. He drops the gloves. He cares about this team so much.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's a London guy, so I like that he's our guy. He's our town. Our guy.
Our. The Pirates crew.
Yeah, I do love that. That it's
yeah.
So Cameron Reed, by far and away, I thought he's just every game. That's the thing is you could actually third star is almost like putting it mildly because every game he's so important.
He is.
Who's your third star?
It's not a who, it's the power play because it started to look good this weekend.
Yes.
I was like, okay, last week it was my bad. So this week I had to put the power play back on because
give it a mention.
Because it was looking better. It looked good in all 3 games.
It did.
I'm cautiously optimistic. All right, and then next week we only have 2 games. So
it's getting down to the nitty gritty.
I know we're 9 games left in the season.
I know. So we got Windsor on the Friday.
No, maybe you should let me say
you should. You should.
Just kidding.
You should.
So Friday night we play the Sarnia Sting.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sarnia.
And then Saturday we play Owen Sound Attack.
Yes.
So we play back-to-back games, and then we don't play again until the next Friday. So
that's right.
It's quite a week, and that's when we play Windsor.
No, yeah, I was thinking.
It's because we've talked about going to that Windsor game.
We have, but I was thinking about Sarnia today, and I didn't realize that Sarnia and Windsor are big rivals. I didn't know that.
I didn't know this either.
Yeah, so I was listening today, and I was just like, "Oh, I didn't know that those teams were rivals." The same way that we found out that London and Windsor are apparently their main rivals.
Because apparently London needs to have different rivals than the Rangers. So.
Yeah, I think everyone's rival with London.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody likes London.
Yeah, no,
right?
No, they don't. Yeah, so Sarnia, we've played them 3 times. We're ahead in the season series 2-1. It's weird because they're not in our division, they're in our conference, but we only play them 4 times this year. So I think this is our last meeting with them. And they're another desperation team with Guelph. They're in that fight for that kind of the bottom slots of the playoffs.
The Rangers got to be careful in this game.
I know. This is what I'm worried about.
Because they lost the last time they played Sarnia.
Yeah.
And I think that this is their 3rd game against them. They've won 1, they've lost 1.
No, this is our 4th game.
4th game, sorry. Yeah. But the last game was a loss.
And it was pre-trade deadline, I think.
That's right.
So we are they did make some trades, so it'll be interesting to see how we match up.
Yes, absolutely. I think they're a better team maybe than the last time we played them, and they took home the win. So the Rangers need to not take this game lightly. I think I have faith in the Juice. They're not going to let Sarnia come into the Aud on a Friday night and push them around because they're desperate. Because the Rangers have been playing with a desperation, even though the Rangers, I feel like all year, in a positive sense, the Rangers have been playing with a desperation because the Rangers were earmarked to be a bubble team.
Yeah, they were overperforming from the get-go, and yeah, for sure. And I've also noticed that teams aren't really messing with the Rangers since Brad Flynn came back. So
Brad Flynn is keeping them at bay.
Bad boy Brad Flynn.
And Lachara's in the lineup a lot.
I know.
I've noticed that down the stretch. There's been a lot more games where Lachara's in than Lachara's out because there was a good period there where he wasn't getting a lot of games.
No.
And now it's like he's just in there.
Yeah.
Because he's the policeman. He's like he's the sheriff.
Everyone in
he's the sheriff, right? The Charizard is
Sheriff Lacharzard.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And then our second game is against Owen Sound Attack. This will be our 5th meeting with them. We are 3-0-1 in our season series with them, and they are one of our Midwest Division rivals.
Yeah.
Did I get this right? Are they
Owen Sound?
Is Sarnia in our division and we are in? Did I put these in the wrong?
Did you put these in the wrong?
For some reason, I feel like Sarnia's in our division.
Sarnia is not in our division.
Okay, so I did get this right.
Owen Sound is in our division.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're 4th in the Midwest Division. They're out of the playoffs by a tiebreaker, so they are also fighting with Sarnia in this particular instance.
They are.
They did more selling at the trade deadline, so they're in a little bit of that state, but they still have Huki and Mabui.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where they are sitting at, they're 19, 26, and 4, but like they have 49 points in 56 games. However, they are in the 8th spot in the conference.
Yeah.
So right now they are in position.
Oh, so this has even changed since
however,
I did my notes.
However, Guelph has a game in hand.
Right.
Right? Now, Guelph is a few points back, but they have a game in hand. Sarnia obviously has to play a team like the Rangers. Like there's...
Yeah, Owen Sound does too.
Yeah, Owen Sound does too. Now, like I said, I think Guelph might have a little bit more juice down the stretch. I don't know because they have those games in hand. They have 2 games in hand on Owen Sound.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It'll be interesting because the last spot in the West is up for grabs.
Totally.
And right now, if you quickly run through it, it's London, then Windsor because of the division, then Kitchener sitting 3rd, then Saginaw, Erie. That would be a crazy first-round matchup.
Yes.
Saginaw and Erie would be wild. I don't know. I don't think Schaefer's coming back, so I would think that Saginaw would take that. Flint is who the Rangers would play if it started today, which is not like ideal by any means because I think Flint, they've got some juice, not our juice, but they've got some juice. And then the Sioux is in 7th. Now they're also in the hunt. So they have 49 points. They're tied with Sarnia. So those last 4 teams, it could be any 2. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. These teams are going to be playing desperate hockey. The Rangers better come to play.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. So interesting weekend for sure, for standings wise, no matter what.
Yeah.
And potential future playoff series wise.
For sure.
So that's it for the previews. News around the OHL. Andrew, guess what?
Yeah.
The Rangers are in top spot in the OHL power rankings again.
I saw. Yeah, I loved it.
It was great.
Yeah.
People also hated it on Reddit, and I went after all of them.
They can let them hate.
Yeah.
Okay. We're making up for
lost time. It was all the London fans, so I just, yeah.
Yeah. They've got the time.
Yeah.
They've got the time to sit at home and go on Reddit and complain about things.
And then usually this is the point in the show where I get real down in my sexy voice and I say the greatest Ranger of all time. But we've finished that segment. But guess what? We're going to do something with our groats today.
I didn't realize that was your sexy voice. Shout out to your wife. I didn't realize that's what she puts up with, you yelling groat in the bedroom.
Yeah. I start and I go, hey,
build.
And then how are you doing? And then I go, groat.
I don't want to get too, but I'm just imagining the growth happening at a specific point in time, but that's a different podcast.
That's a very different podcast.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do with our groats this week, so Andrew and I took the Aud GPT, and we got it to Because what we heard was that
Get some Foley. Another industry term.
Yeah. 86 that. And then, so we heard the OHL Rangers, the whole OHL is doing their century teams right now.
Yeah.
So the best team from the last 25 years, putting together their A squad and their B squad. And then we were like, hey, we just did this whole thing where we talked about the greatest Rangers of all time. And then a good portion of those were from the 2000s and the 2010s and now the 2020s. And so we were like, why don't we build the odd A squad and B squad of the Kitchener Rangers?
Nice.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the
Aud Squad.
The Aud Squad.
The Odd Pod Squad.
The Odd Pod Squad. So we're going to do two teams. Both teams will have 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, 1 goalie, and the coach for both of them is Pete DeBoer because we only groated one coach.
That's true.
And so the coach is Pete DeBoer, whether he wants to do it or not.
He has to.
He has to.
He has to.
So Pete DeBoer's A team and B team. So why don't let's start with the goalies, Andrew.
Absolutely. That's a great place to start.
Yeah. Of all of our 32 groats, we nominated 2 goalies that fall into this first century of the 2000s.
Perfect. We're taking them both.
We'll take both of them. So we got John Gibson and Scott Dickey.
Yeah. 2 all-time groats. John Gibson, I think, obviously had a better professional career and probably arguably a little bit more talented in the OHL as well, had better single-season numbers. But Scott Dickey won a Memorial Cup.
He did.
So you can't deny that, right? It doesn't matter what some idiot in a room says, you didn't have that good numbers. Yeah, I don't think he's worried about it.
No, he's not. And Scott Dickey, when I nominated him as a groat, one of the things that I said about him is that his numbers are eerily similar to our friend Jackson Parsons. So
it's true.
I would want Jackson Parsons on my A team right now.
Exactly.
So I'm going to say quarter century mark.
Yep.
Scott Dickey, A team.
Yes.
And then John Gibson, who we also love, but B team.
It's true. In fact, I love him so much that I would love for him to play for my favorite NHL team.
You need that right now.
Come to Edmonton. Actually, I think he wants to. I think he's expressed that he'll play for Edmonton and Carolina.
I think he'll play for anybody.
I know. Yeah. He's Anaheim, please. They just run the wheels off me.
Valentine's Day comes and I get exhausted.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our goalies. For defense, we're going to take 2 for each team. So we have Andre Benoit, Hunter Brustevich, Steve Eminger, and Ryan Murphy.
We do.
Interestingly, we don't have to cut anybody.
We don't have to cut anybody.
So Andre Benoit.
He has to go first team. Because he is the all-time points leader for defensemen.
Yes.
He has his own banner in the rafters.
Yep.
He won a Memorial Cup. He's a guy that is living in Rangers lore. Again, in the NHL, not as successful. However,
that's not what this is about.
This is not what it's about. It's about playing for the Rangers. Andre Benoit, first team, has to be.
And then who are you pairing with him for the first team? Is it Brustevich, Eminger, or Murphy? Who do you think?
I'm going Eminger because by all records and accounts, when Eminger came back from injury, that was what put that Memorial Cup team over the top.
Yeah. And it's really that that I feel like that's the tiebreaker because
it is because they only have 2 in their history.
Yeah, because Brustevich feels like a good push for that second slot on the first team because obviously he was one of the most dominant defensemen the Rangers have ever seen in a single season.
Offensively, I think Brustevich is the most talented hockey player out of these 4.
Yeah.
But I would just load up that second team and put him with another offensive defenseman and Ryan Murphy and just go out there and pass it back and forth and score one.
Score so many.
Yeah, where if I was icing these guys, I would quite literally split them up. I would put Eminger and Brustevich, or any combination of Benoit and Murphy, Benoit and Brustevich, if that's how I was icing them.
Yeah.
But first team, I'm putting Benoit and Eminger.
Yeah. Then we have a much tougher decision. Because we are going to choose 6 players inevitably, but we have 8 forwards.
This is where it's going to get hard.
Yeah, it's going to be things. I'll read them again. Mike Richards, Evan McGrath. Did I read them once? No. Mike Richards, Evan McGrath, Jeff Skinner, Nazem Kadri, Derek Roy, Gabriel Landeskog, Jason Aikson, and Justin Azevedo.
Let's just go. Who are you taking It's 3 forwards. Doesn't matter if they're centers or wingers or anything. Who are you taking on that first team for sure out of those 8?
I feel like it's got to be Mike Richards.
It has to be Mike Richards.
Like, because he was the captain of the Memorial Cup team.
No, Derek Roy was
Derek
the
Roy.
captain of the Memorial Cup team. However,
I think
Richards was a rookie and tore it up that year.
Right. Yes, that's true. So he got even better.
But he won a World Junior. He was the captain of the World Junior team.
Yeah.
He's a captain. He was a captain of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how hard that was.
He's got name cachet.
And he won a cup.
First.
He won a cup with LA.
Yeah.
So like,
but I think it's Mike Richards. Derek Roy's got to be right there with him.
for sure. You have to take those 2.
Like there for sure.
Those 2 are first team.
So
because they're a package deal.
Then it gets a little tricky, but
now it's just preference.
I think it is.
I think so.
And I think it's Landeskog. You don't like Landeskog because he
that's a
steals
lie.
everything.
Here's the thing: is I don't like
You don't like Landeskog as an Oilers fan.
I root against Landeskog.
Yeah.
Yes, because the year he won the Calder, he beat Nugent Hopkins. Even Nugent Hopkins had the same amount of points in less games, and then he won a cup at the hands of the Oilers in that conference final. But then I watched was it called Face Off series? It was called the Face Off series. And he seemed like a great guy.
And you're like, you just want to be best bud. You want to go. He probably doesn't drink beer because he seems like he's friends with Nate McKinnon, and they wouldn't do that.
He just seems like a nice man.
Just seems like a guy to go.
Good guy.
Sit on the beach with.
Good dad.
Yeah.
Like I just thought this seems like a nice person.
Shows up for his
and
friends.
Kitchener Ranger.
Yeah, and a Kitchener Ranger.
So
okay.
I will no longer badmouth. Not that I ever did, but I will no longer root against Gabriel Landeskog. In fact, I'm rooting for him to come back. He's in my long-term IR in my fantasy league.
Yeah, I hope he comes back at some point.
Yeah.
I hope that his end does not come.
I agree.
Okay, so first team is Mike Richards, Derek Roy, and Gabriel Landeskog.
Yes.
Okay, second team, who are you picking?
I am going to take... Because he scored 97 goals in 2 years, I'm taking Jeff Skinner.
Yeah.
I think 97 goals in 2 years is absurd. He did crazy things as like an underage young player. Like he just literally did stuff that guys that age don't do.
He shouldn't do.
Yeah. And he even did it in the NHL. He's like the youngest Calder winner. It's crazy the trajectory that he had coming out of Kitchener Rangers. And he scored 40 in the NHL. That's crazy. Being the size that he is, that's the thing that nobody really talks about. Is that he's not a big guy.
Yeah.
And he's gone on and he's been successful. But as a Ranger, I would have loved to see Jeff Skinner play as a Ranger because I'm guessing that the dude was just automatic.
Yeah.
That playoff run where they got to the 3rd round and he scored 20 goals in 20 games. Oh, man. That's awesome.
I think we got to take Nazem Kadri for this team.
I think so.
And it hurts a little because his prime in the OHL was with London.
That's true.
But he started with the Kitchener Rangers, and he was a pretty dominant force in the OHL. So I think you got to take Kadri.
I think so, too. And I think that he's gone on to be such a successful player professionally that you realize that obviously he learned fundamentals with the Kitchener Rangers as like playing at a high level. And of course he went on to London because it's a factory there to attract good players. That's what they do. They go out and they just buy talent and he was that guy at that
Conspiracy
point.
Odd Pod here. Okay, who's the third one that gets picked? And then I guess who gets cut?
We've got Azevedo, Akeson, and McGrath. I think for me, it comes down between Azevedo and McGrath because they both had crazy all-time seasons. I would lean McGrath because I think he had a better career as a Ranger.
Okay.
And I think that he blossomed after the Rangers were they were coming down from being a championship challenging kind of team, but he kept getting better.
Yes.
So I think your 3 guys who didn't make a lot of noise as professionals, that's where I think I'd go. I think, and also I see this, I might be a little bit biased, I see Evan McGrath in the community doing things charitably.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy.
Seems like a great dude.
Yeah.
He
gets the community bump.
Yeah, absolutely. That is part of being a Ranger.
It is. It for sure is. Okay, so there's our 2 teams. So our A team is Mike Richards, Gabriel Landeskog, Derek Roy, Andre Benoit, and Steve Eminger.
Yeah.
And Scott Dickey.
Yep.
And then our B team is Evan McGrath, Jeff Skinner, Nazem Kadri, Hunter Brustevich, Ryan Murphy, and John Gibson, both coached by
Pete DeBoer. He's got to work twice as hard in this.
Yeah, poor guy has to coach 2 lines,
2 whole lines. But of course, Pete DeBoer was the coach in 2003 when they won the Memorial Cup, and of course, he's gone on to be a very talented coach in the National Hockey League, and
might win a Stanley Cup this year.
I hope that he doesn't, but he may.
Yep. All right, so that's the episode this week. Of course, we have some thank yous to throw out.
We sure do.
Ken Bourne for the branding and marketing.
If you're watching the video, which many of you are now, we really appreciate it. You can see the lovely hat.
I'm not wearing it.
I
thought I was wearing it.
Why did you grab you don't know what you're wearing.
No, I thought I grabbed it.
Do you dress yourself?
No.
There you go.
I have people for that. Imaginary people.
Is that in the budget?
A big, huge shout out to our prodigal producer, Liam.
Oh, the phenom.
Who went to his first Kitchener Rangers game this week.
Get out.
Saw the Barrie Colts game.
Nice. So he's undefeated
He is
attendance.
Undefeated. He had some words about officiating that I'm not going to repeat here, but
wow,
he had some thoughts.
Liam?
Yeah, so...
I sure hope you didn't learn those words on this podcast. Young man.
We're a clean podcast.
We are.
We want to thank the Idea Exchange in Cambridge because that's where we're recording this week.
That is where we are this week.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And then you can catch us on the social medias.
Yes, at the Aud Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search the Aud Podcast Kitchener Rangers and we do come up. I confirmed that.
Excellent.
So we're now in the YouTube ether.
Yes.
I don't want to give you the username because it's weird. But
it is a little weird.
It's weird, but it works if you search Aud Pod Kitchener Rangers.
Nice.
You also send us an email at theaudpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And as always, you can find us at
the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium.
See you at the Aud.